We begin tonight in Monona County, Iowa, with word of a project that some say stinks.
I don't want this in my backyard. What's it going to do to my groundwater?
A company which hasn't been identified built a 6-acre industrial waste site near Castana, and Monona County leaders say they had no idea it was happening.
We're learning more about this development in Monona County. It's a waste holding site for hog manure. County leaders insist they weren't notified about the development and didn't approve anything related to the development. Now, this is the land we're talking about, 6 acres, about 3 miles northeast of Castana. And that's where something called dissolved air flotation will actually get dumped. It's an industrial waste byproduct which comes from hog manure that's washed down from stockyards. As workers rinse the hogs and then rinse the stockyards, what's washed away gets pressed into a solid and then brought to the site. The manure will come from Woodbury County, but the project team didn't say who is actually behind the project. KTV's Taylor Deckert was at the Monona County Board of Supervisors meeting this morning where details of the development were shared. So Taylor, what did you learn today?
Hey Jessica, Matt, more than 50 people showed up to this meeting to talk about this piece of land right here behind me. There were so many people in attendance. They moved from the Board of Supervisors room into the large courtroom. Now, the reason this meeting was called is the board chairman said he wanted to stop rumors, especially the claim that the county had anything involved with this project. He said the county wasn't notified at all about this progress.
This property was planted with beans in the spring, as usual, and they ripped those out and came with all this heavy equipment almost in the middle of the night, really quickly, and put this in the last few weeks.
Scott Capsule lives near the project site in northeastern Monona County. He's one of dozens of people who attended Tuesday's meeting of the Board of Supervisors to learn more from the project manager, Jay Lehman.
We've spent a tremendous amount of time working with the engineers, worked with the DNR, we've worked with agronomists, we've done soil tests, multiple, to make sure this is something that we would even want to take.
Bo Fox is the chairman of the Monona County Board of Supervisors. He called this meeting to learn more about the intentions of the site.
We're trying to figure out from the county perspective on what boundaries we have as a county, if we have any authority or not.
There were concerns raised about how they got this project to where it is without the county input. An agriculture engineer who assisted with the project said under Iowa law, the project may not need a permit at all if it meets certain conditions.
Paragraph 6, there is a permit exemption. So if the waste is applied under a 2 dry ton per acre per year application rate, then there's a list of the site requirements and the waste requirements that have to be met.
But there were as many concerns from the public as there were answers.
The odor of this product is not an extreme thing. It's very similar to hog manure, is what the odor is. So.
Residents say they felt blindsided by the project being built without knowing what was going there.
It was never our intention to create miscommunication. Our intention was to design something on the farm for our farm.
Other concerns included rainfall and runoff and the impact on water downstream. They also wanted to know where the material will come from. Representatives from Hawthorne Land Holdings wouldn't name the source, stating they're under contract.
The contract itself that we're working with, I'm not at liberty to disclose.
Ending the meeting on a sour note for many of those who live close by. Yes, Tuesday's meeting answered some questions, but also left some lingering, like who is going to be using this plot here behind me and what happens if something goes wrong. KTIB will continue to follow the progress on this project. Matt, Jessica?
Taylor, thanks for the update. Now, the discussion isn't over yet. People can return to next Tuesday's supervisors meeting to make additional comment.